Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in today to Izzy the Tech Guy. We're going to continue our series on SQL. Today is going to be episode 18. We're going to be discussing how to do the self joins. So, without any further delay, let's go ahead and jump into it. This is going to be a really quick um, episode. So, go ahead and go to w3school.com. And this is not too hard as the other ones that we've done. The last episode we discussed doing left joins, and then we did edit join and right join. So let's go ahead, go click on Learn SQL, and then when you get to this page right here, you'll scroll down to the left and then just go ahead and go to Self Join. Again, that's what we're going to be discussing today. And basically, a quick my description of self join is basically joining the same table to itself. Okay, so W3school states that a self join is a regular join, but the table is joined to itself. So syntax, if you notice, this is a unique way that W3school shows it, and this is perfectly fine. Um, let me click here. In previous tutorials, we had the statement join in there, but this one and the self join, we're not doing that. We're just putting two tables and we're putting down the conditions of how to join it. And again, the syntax is almost the same. So you're saying select, you put all the columns you want to select from, and you put the name of the tables. So from table one, since you're doing a self join, and then in your where clause will be the conditions. So in this episode, we're going to use the customer table. And there's several different ways, different scenarios where you might need to join the table to itself. Let's say, for instance, you have a table that contains records of customers from the year 2022 and the year 2023. You might want to find a way to have a unique way to show if it's a reoccurring customer or if it's a new customer. So you might want to do a self join to itself. And there's other scenarios where that'll come into play. So it all depends on the scenario you're trying to tackle is when you're going to use a self join. So let's go ahead and do the try it yourself, and then we'll walk through what they're doing here, and we'll play around a little bit with the code that they have. So let's look at here. So basically what they have, they're selecting customer name, and they're putting that as customer name 1, and then they're selecting customer name again, but if you notice, they have the alias B, and they're saying as customer name 2. Now this, in previous episode, we talked about, hey, sometimes you don't have to use the alias. This time you definitely want to use the alias because it can get confusing. Like let's say in the prior episode, we saw it like this. And I'm going to show you what's going to happen. So again, key thing here is we're doing a self join. So you're just saying, this is basically what you're saying. And when you put it like this, the compiler, whatever's pulling your query, doesn't know what's going on. It's like, hey, you're doing a self join, so what table am I pulling from? So let's run this, and hopefully I'm correct. It should cause an error. So okay, error, cannot prepare a statement, ambiguous columns. This is exactly what I want to see. Ambiguous column names. And the reason why I'm saying that, it's like, hey, this customer name is in this table and this table, so I don't know what to do. That's basically what's happening. So let's refresh this so we can get it back to where we want to do. Okay, so I just wanted to run that real quick to help you understand why we have these aliases here. So they're pulling out the customer name from the first table and putting it as customer name 1. Then you pull in the customer name from the second table and you put it as customer 2. And then you have a city. And then what you're doing here is it's basically an inner join. You're joining where the cities match and the customer ID do not match. The customer ID in this table is the primary key, so it's the unique identifier for each row in the table. So that is why you don't want it to match. So if we run this, and basically what this output is showing is all the customers that's in this city right here, Buenos Aires. And you have this customer and this customer. Then you have this customer still and this customer. Then you have this customer here and this customer. So it's just basically listing out the customers from these cities. And you can kind of get creative here. One thing I'm surprised that it didn't create a Cartesian join. And what I mean by this, I'm surprised this, or maybe did it do it? Let me look at my So how many, what I'm looking here is how many customers really do, you know what, let me open a new tab to show. Maybe it did create a Cartesian join. Open link a new tab. What I'm going to do here is select a customer and just to see if it happened what I said. Sorry, I was just curious about this. From customers. I think we discussed what a Cartesian join is before, but if we didn't, we can discuss it again. Where city equals, you know what? I'm just going to bring everything back. I'm not going to play around with just selecting one city. So I'm bringing every city back from this city right here. Control copy, bring it back over here. Have my single quote since it's a string, and then run this. Okay, I think it did. So we have 3 customers that are from this city. And if we come back over here, so we have 1, 2, 3. So basically I'm expecting this to repeat 6 times. Then you have 1, 2, 3. Yep. So what I was thinking did happen. So this kind of created Cartesian join. And the reason why it's doing that, because I'm just processing this. So this is connecting, since it's on city, this has 3 counterparts. And what I mean by that, so you have 1, 2, I'm expecting a third one, but I guess it doesn't have a third one. And what I mean, well, no, two counterparts. That makes sense. So this one joined to this, and this one joined to this again, if that makes sense. And then this one joined to this, and this one already joined to that one. So that's why, and then this one joined to that. So it kind of repeat. You might, so the join, this inner join, I mean, this self join worked. However, it's a little messy. And what I mean by that, what I would expect is to have 3 rows only, really. But since we're joining on city, it repeated more than 3 times. It repeated 6 times. So I would expect like, okay, this, this, and this. But again, just to illustrate how to do a self join, I understand what they're doing here. So again, we see this is table 1, this is table 2, and this city is coming from table 1. And we see here how, let's look at the syntax. So it says this table and this table, which is the same tables, and then we're joining. Here's our join condition. Usually we're used to seeing the statement on, but this time we don't see it since it's a self join. So it's saying a city to city, and of course we're ordering by city, where the customer ID does not equal the customer ID. This is what this means, and that's how you would do a self join. Again, I usually don't use it in this way, but for illustration purposes, I understand what they're doing here. But yeah, and again, definitely practice this. This can be very useful if you're dealing with historical data in your table. If you want to, like I said before, if you want to look at churn, or if you want to look at repeating customers, anything of that nature, this is a good example where you can do a self join, or sometimes what I do an end statement. But this is a perfect example. So hopefully you guys enjoy this lesson today, and don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share with anybody else that's learning how to code or learning how to use SQL. Have a good day.